Hello viewers, you're watching the Doordarshan Kendra Kohima. Welcome to another episode of Talk and Know, where we discuss topics that matter. Now in this episode, we will be discussing on the topic women in journalism. And I'm very excited to have two amazing panelists with me for this show, where they will be sharing their experiences and also discussing on challenges that women in the field of journalism face. So with me is Dr. Wapang Sangla Longkumar. She is the guest faculty at the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication under the Nagaland University. We also have Visarita Krota. She is a senior journalist and the General Secretary of the Kohima Press Club. So thank you very much, ladies, for joining me for this discussion. I want to come to you, Dr. Wapang, first to initiate this conversation. If you can shed light on journalism and tell our viewers a little about this concept.
Well, journalism, since the time we have been growing up, we have been exposed through television and radio, and also published articles or news reports through newspapers as well as magazine. And now journalism has taken new shape in the form of a new media, and we are constantly bombarded with so much information where we can share as well as where we can, expose our work around en masse, through social media or podcasts or websites, So over the past few decades, the shape of journalism has changed so much. Now, if we look at the technicality of what journalism is about, it is the art and science of, gathering news as well as disseminating it to the public through an objective perspective. So the main crux is to educate as well as to make aware of what is happening around, around the society, and why we rely on, why we all as journalists as well as even the general public, why we rely, because knowledge is power, right? Through that, you're able to make an informed decision. Through what you get from the news, you're able to, form your opinion, broaden your perspective, or, make sense of what is happening around you. So that is why journalism is very important, and the more important is to have an objective perspective on it. And what sets apart journalism from other type of citizen journalism or all this, what sets apart in the sense that in a professional way is expert journalists, they are able to conceptualize events, and they are able to present it in a manner where public will be aware of what is happening, and they will be able to take action. And now, as we know that India is a democratic country, and media is considered as the fourth pillar of democracy, which means that journalism, it builds as a foundation for the country to thrive, which is why journalism helps in in bringing democracy as well as promoting unity. And one very important aspect of journalism, the role of journalists is through the investigative reporting that a journalist do. So a journalist, he or she risks their life in bringing out news reports, and so that
it benefits the consumers also.
Yes,
the public.
yes. It can, and then they might, through those reports, better policies may evolve.
Right. I think those are very crucial points that you've mentioned. I'm coming to you, Ms. Rita. If you could tell us, she's mentioned about journalism, how it has evolved over the decades as well. If you could, take us through your journey on how you decided to become a journalist. Was it accidental? I wouldn't say accidental, but if you could take us through your journey.
Yeah, so I grew up like knowing nothing about journalism as a profession, because during my time, I think none of us were exposed to professions like journalism or writing in general. And so I was kind of lost as to what I wanted to become in the future, but my love for the English subject was obvious, so I studied English literature for my bachelor's, and then followed and then pursued masters in journalism and mass communication.
Mm.
So I think that sort of introduced me to writing news articles and feature articles in general. So I had started contributing those articles to a local daily here in Nagaland, and while as a student. And so while I wrote for the love of it, there came a time when the editor of a local daily here approached me and asked if I would be interested in writing a weekly column for the newspaper.
Okay.
And so that's how I started my journey. And for that weekly column that I contributed, I was paid rupees 200,
Okay.
and which is a very meager amount, like if you think of it now. But I was very, I felt very rewarded in the sense getting paid for something that you enjoy doing. And subsequently, right after I finished my degree, they asked, the same paper asked if I would be interested in working full-time for them. And so that is how I joined the English Daily here in Nagaland, and have been working there. I worked there as a full-time correspondent in Kohima for a period of 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And
That would be how many years back?
so I joined, like full-time, I joined journalism in the year 2008.
Okay.
Yeah. And after 2013, I quit full-time journalism. But in between, I also realized that I would come across stories which I would think that this could make a great story for a newspaper. And then I would find myself like at a loss because I was not associated with any other paper anymore. And so that period of time, I was hungry to write more stories. And so again, got myself associated with a newspaper, and it's been a long journey now.
That's very interesting, and we'd come to you to discuss the challenges. But before that, I'm coming to you, Dr. Wapong. You know, for Rita, it might have been her love for writing that landed her in journalism. For you, I believe it is a conscious decision because you're one of the few people in Nagaland who holds a degree in journalism and mass communication. If you could please take us through your journey of how you started, found interest in, particularly in this field.
Well, just like Rita, even I'll have to say, like, it was my love for words, writing especially. And of course, I didn't start with a clear path that I'll complete my PhD like that.
Okay.
It started accidentally because I liked writing. So it started with contributing to my school, when I was in my +2, 10 +2, sorry. There I started giving articles, and then the teachers, they liked what I wrote. So that's how I started, and then I discovered like, oh, there is a profession called journalism as well. So maybe my writing will be better used there. So that's how I pursued my degree as well.
Okay.
So after my degree, I started working in the print, and then later again I was in the public relation as well, and then again I was in radio as well. So all this exposure, it gave me a sense, a well-rounded sense, I should say, of both the print and electronic media. And meanwhile, while I was doing all this, I was also pursuing my PhD. I was doing my research in the impact of radio in development. So that's how I started into the profession, and now going into teaching, which was something very new for me, and which I was a bit quite skeptical in the beginning whether I'll like it or not, but it was a pleasant surprise that I started liking this profession, and it has been immensely satisfying for me to teach our subject to future generation of journalists. So I would like to continue in this profession, and then it's ever evolving. So there's a lot more to learn from me also, and I hope to contribute more in this field as well.
Well, you seem to. I've observed that you are loving what you are doing right now. Now, besides this, I'm sure there are challenges that you face. If we could come to those, because this is the field of journalism, be it teaching, be it contributing for people, or working on other form of mass communication. If you could share what are challenges that you face? Some take us through some hardships. I'm sure not every ride is a jolly one.
Yes, I think hardships, it can be it can be quite subjective as well. However, for me, I have to see the salary is something that is a big problem in our profession, which is why I feel like most of us, we are compelled to multitask. We are not able to put our time and effort in one and then make it our expertise, because we are constrained by financially, because we are paid very less. So I think that is something that was a challenge for me in working, and it still has been, it is, I should say, in the profession. And another thing is while doing an investigative piece, the public response, of course you write it with so much risk, and then gets published, and government may take notice, but it's the public who don't react. That is when the disappointment, or you feel like your story is not getting the right amount of reaction. Sometimes that can be a little overwhelming as well. So I should say those are a bit of the challenges that I faced.
Okay. While we're discussing about this, Rita, you contributed to papers on the national level as well. You contribute to papers here in the state. You've worked with many publications. I want to know your challenges. If you agree to her, or if you would like to supplement to what she's saying, share your side of the story.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, salary, as you know, like you get paid very less here, and so. Like she mentioned, that's one of the major challenges. Like initially, in my initial years of journalism, I used to have an uncle, a relative, who used to always insist that I write competitive examinations, because, the crave for white-collar jobs,
yes.
like things have changed and evolved like over the last decade, I think. But so he would not consider what I do is a job at all. So, having to come across such comments and remarks also affects you in a way. But of course, I was also very resolute with what I was doing, and I persisted on. And family-wise, they have been very supportive in that sense, because regardless of how less I was paid, they were supportive of my dreams and what I wanted to pursue. So she was talking about multitasking as a journalist also, because you get paid very less. I did a lot of multitasking as well, but those are all writing related. So in a way, I'm grateful that all those opportunities also come to me without having to ask people to give me a particular project, or so few departments have also commissioned me and a friend to write and research about their projects, and so you get paid like that sometimes. But I think over and above, I think it's the sense of fulfillment and satisfaction that you get from doing what you love and enjoy doing the most. And in terms of my experience with writing for national dailies, I would say it came quite by chance, because I never really thought of writing for those papers, but it was my first introduction would be through a fellowship that I got, a journalism fellowship under National Foundation for India, and so that is how one of my works got published in The Hindu. It was very satisfying, both in terms of the payment as well as the fellowship grant, and in terms of having your story out there for the entire country to read.
Right, right. Also, I think the impact that stories, our reports or the stories leave on the lives of people. I think the platform that journalists have they are also accountable and responsible to our stories, but the impact that can have a positive impact that can be made on people. Rita, if you could highlight any story that you mentioned that you felt that okay, this story was my favorite, it impacted people. If you have any of those references and you'd like to cite any.
Yeah, so there is this particular boy from my village who came from a very humble beginning, and he did not even have a proper room to study here in Kohima while pursuing his high school. And they would go work during weekends and earn for themselves, and keep themselves afloat, the siblings. And so this boy, when he appeared for the HSLC examination, even without a proper table and chair to study, he actually did very well and emerged a topper. So I did a story on him, and he being the first from our village to also secure a very one of the topmost HSLC positions, having come from such a background, it ignited a lot of interest, I think, even in people, as in it moved people's emotions to come forward also to help him. So there was this particular guy who got in touch and wanted to help him with his admissions and all that. So that was very such a good feeling, like and even for the National Foundation for India story that I wrote, there was this gentleman from Kerala who read about the story and wanted to, because my story was about how communities came together during the COVID-19 pandemic to help each other, and mostly through farming and stuff. So this gentleman from Kerala, he wanted to contribute some seeds to this group of people who were, went all out to help farmers during the COVID-19 pandemic. And through me, he contacted me and sent a lot of seeds for them. So, I mean, small instances that, really gratifying.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing those stories. I mean, the job satisfaction and also the impact that it's making on people, it's commendable. Dr. Wapang, coming to you now, because you have mentioned about multitasking. Now, as an educator also, how are you balancing your work life? Do you think women in the field of journalism face more specific challenges, particularly in this aspect, comparing to men?
Well, there are some unique challenges that women can face in the sense of work-life balance as well. Women being the caregiver also, since journalism is a very fast-paced profession, where you have to meet deadlines, and then you have to keep constantly updating yourself.
Right.
That kind of profession, there can be the challenges of this work-life balance, and then the other challenges can be there can be stereotypes as well as biased opinion about women, and especially now in a digital age, where there is a lot of anonymity of who is giving comments or who are contacting you. With a lot of this anonymity, you can see there are reports of women being given threats as well, and being exposed to which can hinder their mental health and progress. So those are some challenges that women may face. And then another challenge what we can see is that most women are not in the leadership position, as if we look at the news organization. Of course they are there as senior journalists, and but not in the top level, in the decision making body. So I think there is a need for women to be included in that space as well.
Okay, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think she has mentioned almost all the challenges that women face. Like for me, I think working as a full-time correspondent for a daily here was, it was like a 24/7 job, as in, like as women, we also have to take care of a lot of household chores, and I mean, the work is endless at home.
Right,
So
right.
that way, it can be quite challenging to balance both your work and home affairs. But there are times like I remember waking up so early to report, and even at 6 a.m. in the morning, like you just scroll out of your bed and you're out there showing up at the scene to report, and even or it's sometimes very odd timings, even like at night, like you come back late home and you barely get to eat on time also. So I think that's also one of the challenges. And I think she mentioned women being caregivers, and I remember this time when I had both my grandparents at home, and because all my siblings are married and settled down, like usually I'm the one doing all the errands at home. So it can be, because of the odd timings that journalism also demand and require, sometimes you tend to, you know, leave those things behind and, you know, just attend to your job. So yeah, that way.
I think as journalists, there's no specific 9-to-5 job specification.
Right.
You're needed at any time of the day, and that could be a challenge in itself. Now, Dr. Wapang, if you could highlight some of, you know, the role that journalists can play in highlighting issues about women. If you could highlight some, you know, what role can journalists play?
Yeah, whatever, you know, news or articles that journalists give out to the public, you know, it shapes the public's opinion a lot. So it is very important to maintain you know, gender sensitive tone in terms of reporting is concerned. So let's say, for example, like when we are describing you know, we often say policemen, right?
Yeah.
So we can refer to them as police personnel, because it can be both men and women, right? Or let's see, when we are referring, when we should avoid using like some pronouns like he most of the time. Like let's say, you know, if a student studies hard, he will succeed. Okay, instead of he, we can use like, if a student succeed, they may. If a student study hard, they may succeed. You know, using such, you know, words sensitively can make a lot of impact on the people, because what we see in the media is what we set a bar for ourselves, even for ourselves, as well as what we expect of others, right? Like let's say, women can be only caregivers, or men has to be aggressive leaders. You know, these are some stereotypical images that we build through the exposure of media, right? So journalists has a like greater role to play in terms of representing men and women equally.
The power of words there.
Yes.
So Rita, maybe one last question to you. If you could, you know, tell us the scenario of women in journalism here in Nagaland today. You know, how do you see the status, especially with regard to the Kohima Press Club? You know, it's led by women. You yourself are the general secretary, and it's, I think there's a whole women workforce also there. If you could highlight some of the situation, what's the status right now?
Yeah, I think it's very exciting to see the media scene evolving over the past. In the last decade, I think it has really mushroomed, like full-on women workforce, whether it's KPC, as you mentioned, or I was actually very fortunate to also work under a woman editor, and so my first introduction to journalism is also through a woman. And now, whether it is print or visual or electronic media, internet, everywhere, like you have women reporters, women anchors, women, you know, doing a lot of, I think if you look at the statistics, women would far, you know, supersede with the number of men working in the media field. Yeah, so that way, I think women also have more opportunity to talk about women issues as well, and because as women we understand the experiences of a woman better. Yeah.
Right. All right, Dr. Wapang, if you could, you know, summarize your thoughts on our discussion and on the role of women in journalism, before we close this conversation, your final thoughts?
Well, I should say it's been a very fruitful conversation, in the sense we have dealt in not only on our personal experiences as women, where we are able to relate on everyday challenges. Not only that, but we have also seen on the the challenges and opportunities,
right,
and the status of how women are performing as journalists in the state. So I should say it has been a very fruitful conversation. And
you see more like, do you agree when Rita said that as per statistics showing now in the years, women will take over?
Yeah, in the forefront, yes, in the forefront, I should say women are doing much better than the men, considering our state. And we are also very fortunate that we don't have much barrier of when we talk about gap in payment, in some countries we see that there is a gap, pay disparity as well between men and women. So we're very fortunate in the sense we don't have to face those. And also we are fortunate in the sense of security as well. Means we are not that exposed to so much of violence.
Right, right.
As far as women's safety is concerned. So I totally agree that Nagaland gives a thriving environment for women journalists. So now coming to the future as well, like I've mentioned, we need women in the top positions as well, in the decision-making body as well, when it comes to media organization. So I would wish that the more women leadership will come up.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. I think we've discussed the role of women, especially in the context of Nagaland, and with your experiences, we've understood more on how women are performing, also challenges faced by women, and how best women issues can be highlighted through the platforms that journalists and women journalists have. I hope this was as informative for our viewers as it was for me. It was a very exciting discussion with you both. Wish you both the very best for your future works. Thanks for joining me, and viewers, that was this discussion on women in journalism. We hope to bring you more of such discussions, and even on different topics through this show, which is called The Talk and Know. You've stayed with us from the beginning. We hope you would join us in the next one. I am Madeline Ambrosia, signing off from DDK Kohima.